The purpose of life is not to be happy. It is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well. Ralph Waldo Emerson. If you have a strong purpose in life, you don't have to be pushed. Your passion will drive you there. Roy T. Bennett. Welcome back, everybody, to the Insightful Podcast. We gain insight in order to move forward in life. Today is episode 8, and I am once again in the backyard. Love being here. And today we will be discussing purpose and why, in my opinion, every single person needs a purpose. If you guys are enjoying the podcast, click the like button and subscribe, and comment any other topics that you want me to discuss in the future. Without further ado, let's get into this. First off, before we get started, we need to understand the importance of living with a purpose. We need to understand the opposite. What is it like living without a purpose? So I'll start by saying my experience of living life without a purpose, and this dates back to my high school days. So most people had a normal high school, but when I was in high school in grade 10, that's when the pandemic happened. And when that happened, all school was switched to online. So all classes were done online. I remember when the transition first happened, I was working at a grocery store at the time, and they were very busy. They needed a lot of help. So I was working 40 hours every week, and I had no time to do my schoolwork. So all my assignments got pushed back, and I got a better opportunity to complete them further down the road. So actually, during that time, I didn't do any schoolwork at all. To be honest, I was doing my assignments when I had the chance. It wasn't an everyday thing because of how busy I was with work. But the worst part about it was I was living without a purpose. There was no reason for what I was doing. I was just working. I wasn't saving up for anything at the time. There was no goal. It was just work, right? I met a lot of great people and made a lot of good friends and stuff during that time. But the thing was, is I had no goal, I had no vision, I had no purpose. So it left me sad, I guess, like many people during that time as well. And the biggest thing was I was not living any life of routine as well. I was going to work, staying up late, playing video games, waking up, you know, joining my class because I had to show up there for attendance. Once I showed up for attendance, I would go back to sleep. You know, there was no purpose in what I was doing. I didn't even really learn anything because of what I was doing. Because at the end of the day, it was my fault. It wasn't like it was the teacher's fault or the way the system was set up that way during the pandemic. It wasn't. It was no one's fault but my own because I wasn't really learning anything. I was just showing up, you know, trying my best to get the best grades I could. And at the time, grades didn't really even matter, right? That time you could even fail. So what do you tell a student that says that it's impossible to fail? Of course, they're not going to try, right? And it just left me, I guess, kind of empty at the time because I wasn't working towards anything and I didn't know where I was going. So it was bad. I had no ambition at the time. Like I couldn't work out at the gym. So even the one thing that I had that was purposeful in my life was taken away. So I was working out at home, but I don't know if you guys deal with this, but working out at home is very hard to stay disciplined with because you have so many distractions all around you. So it wasn't like I was working out consistently or trying to hit a goal with a certain weight or whatever. It was nothing like that. There was no goals. There was just living day by day life and not even knowing what I was trying to aim for, you know. And this goes into like another reason, like what is it like living without purpose? You're just going through the motion of life, right? Life is just taking you where it wants you to go, and you're not trying to fix your life or put your life in the direction that you want it to go. The life is just controlling you. And I think that's the worst thing you could do. I think that's when I was the most sad as a person. I was very sad at the time because I had no vision. There was no goal in mind. There was nothing I was striving towards. It was just waking up, doing the same thing over and over again. And I think there is a big difference from when you're actually like putting in effort in something and have to do the same things every day in order to reach that goal. If that's the gym, if that's working on a business, if that's schoolwork, studying, all these things. When you're in high school or university, I was in high school, but I wasn't really focused on my studies. But if you're in university, for example, you know that every single day that you're studying, you're working towards a degree, something tangible, something that you could use for the future. If you're in the gym, yeah, every day seems the same. Yeah, it's a different workout. Yeah, it's a different muscle group, but at least you know you're building your physique to a point where you want it to be in the future, and you can constantly see that image. You know, that's another great reason, another good purpose. But when you have nothing and you're just going through the motion of life, you don't even understand why you're doing what you're doing. That's when you're at your lowest point, in my opinion, or at least for me. That's when I was at my lowest point, where I had no dreams, I had no ambitions. There was nothing I was striving towards. So it just left me feeling empty. Everything I did was there was no purpose behind it. It was just to do it, right? And this is why I think living without a purpose is so bad and could leave you in a bad mental state, because that's how I felt from my own personal experience. Is when I dealt with having no vision, having no goals, I felt the worst. And life was just pushing me. The water was just pushing me down the stream, and I had no direction, I had no destination, you know? So it was really bad. And like I said before, is like nothing when you have nothing to strive for, that's what, at least for me in my experience, has kept me sad. When I had no goal by the end of the month to strive for. You know, I've been growing my social media, my personal social media, pretty good recently over a little while, because for the longest time I was gaining no traction with it, no views, no followers, no tangible results of what I was putting in, right? And recently I've been able to actually reach my goals. I had a goal of hitting 800 followers the week before. I hit it, and then I had a goal of hitting 1,000. I hit it. Now I have a goal of hitting 2,000, and I'm almost at 1,200. It's like when you have those goals and that purpose for doing what you do, that's where it makes it much easier. Because for me, when I was posting before, it was just posting to post. Like I didn't even have a mental image of where I wanted to go with it. You know, so I was just making content every day, whatever content I could think of, and posting it out there, and there was no real vision with it. And that's the whole thing with the podcast too. Is like I believe you, from what I've learned recently, is you can't start anything or do anything without having a vision for the future of where you want it to be. You know, you can't just do something to do it. There needs to be a reason behind it. There needs to be a purpose, because that's when you actually start to see results. At least that's from my experience. The only time I've ever seen results in anything that I've tried is because I had a destination that I wanted to go to with it. I had a purpose behind it. I wasn't just doing it to do it. You know, anytime I've ever gained strength, gained weight from being a skinny guy, I had a purpose for it. There was an underlying purpose for why I wanted to do it. But then when I go through those dry periods where I don't have a purpose and I'm just going through the motion, I see no results. So keep that in mind, you know? And I want to start off by like, because every podcast I want to do, I want to provide value, right? I want there to be something you can take away and apply to your own life. I don't just want to talk about purpose and what it is, and how to, purpose and what it is, and what is it not, and all these things. I actually want to give you guys some value. So things that have helped me getting out of that slump that I was in when I was just going to school, you know, not doing anything, just going through the motion, to doing something with purpose every single day and waking up with more passion and more fire inside. I want to give you guys some daily things that you can take away. So, daily habits are things that can make you start feeling more purposeful. And you can start doing these actions to feel better about yourself and put you on a proper trajectory to live a purposeful life. So, it's the daily habits you do, guys. So even when I had nothing, and I had nothing that I was striving towards, I had daily goals that I needed to do. And once I started implementing those, that's when I started to feel better. So 2022 fall, is when I went back to school after the 2 years off because of the pandemic, and I discovered reading. It sounds funny, discovered reading. What do you mean by that? I've never before this point I never read a book start to finish on my own accord. The only time I ever read a book start to finish was because of school and the English classes or the language classes, whatever, right? So I discovered reading, I discovered Stoicism, and I became very interested in it. So I started reading some books on it. I read Marcus Aurelius, The Meditations, this book called Breakfast with Seneca, where his philosophies are in that book. And even though I didn't have an ultimate purpose of what I wanted to do, I started instilling in myself these daily habits. So one of them was reading. One of them was obviously the gym. The gym started to open up, so I was able to work out again. The gym. And then I started meditating because I always dealt with having an unclear mind and I was never present in the moment. So I discovered meditating, started meditating, and then building a new skill, whatever that skill may be. At the time, I think I already had started posting content. So I wasn't doing that much research about how to post better content, how to make better content, but I was doing that every single day. So these daily habits can make you feel good because even though if you have no ultimate purpose at this current moment, you can wake up the next morning saying, I need to go to the gym, I need to better my physique, I need to read because I want to learn more, I want to be a more knowledgeable person. You know, I want to meditate more because I want to have a clearer mind so that I can be present in the moments that matter. So I started doing these things, and it gave me a purpose. I started to feel more of a purpose to wake up because I was excited to do these things. It was something new that I had never done before. So you guys need to do some daily habits that you look forward to doing. Okay, then back to what I always preach about is build up yourself physically. So if that's a physique, if that's martial arts, if it's at a sport you really want to get great at, doesn't mean you have to go pro with it. It doesn't mean you have to achieve this ultimate thing that everyone else does with it or everyone else strives to do. You can just become better at it. So for me, even when I had nothing to do or no vision, no purpose, every time I would wake up, I would think about going to the gym, hitting a PR, looking at putting weight on the scale, eating more calories so that I could gain weight. And once you have this image in your head, you're able to achieve it because I just focused on the daily things and I felt more purposeful and I was making exceptional progress. I've always struggled with gaining weight my whole life. I've been a skinny guy. That's what I've been known to be for so long. And in January of 2022, I got focused. I got locked in, and it just all I had was the gym at that time. All I had was that's what all I cared about. So I discovered a proper way of bulking, started bulking, and I went from 160 to 180 in 2 months. Yes, the quality of the weight wasn't the best, but the fact that I was just able to gain that weight and see stretch marks on my arms, all these kinds of things, it made me so happy because it finally showed that if I put work into something, I could actually get results. Because the problem with me, and maybe you guys deal with this too sometimes, is the self doubt. With the self doubt, even before you start something new, you think you can't do it. You think, oh, I can't do that. It's not for me. That was the same thing with me with gaining weight and working out. Is having a good physique was so far from my mind. It felt impossible. And when it felt impossible, it felt like there was nothing I could do about it. But the second I actually started to implement the work, do the work that I needed to do, and I always knew what I needed to do when it came to gaining weight and putting on muscle, but I never did it. So I wasted so much time, right? But the second I started to build up my physique, and every single day I had a reason for waking up because I knew I was getting a step closer, it just gave me so much passion, so much fire within under my belly to just wake up and attack the day. So that allowed me to gain a lot of a lot of insight into what I needed to do to actually find my real purpose in life. So you guys need some physical purpose to do whatever it is. It doesn't need to be your whole focus. If you're focused on other things right now, more important things, it could be third or fourth or whatever on the priority list, but you must have it, in my opinion. Because no matter what day you wake up, you have something to strive for. Following a diet and feeling better is another thing that you could start implementing on your day-to-day life to feel more purposeful. Because you guys, if you've done this before, at least for me, anytime I eat whole foods, I eat proper, I eat the diet I know I should be eating, I always feel better. You know, I always feel like a better version of myself, and I just feel healthier. So this is something you can start implementing to feel purposeful in your diet, not just eating to eat. You're eating for a reason. I feel like, at least for myself, that's when I feel the greatest, is when I'm eating for a purpose, not just eating to eat, not just eating because I have to. You know, I have a physique I want to attain. I'm going to eat a certain way so I can attain that physique. You know, and once I started doing that as well, I was getting in the calories that I needed to get in from the right foods that I know would help me gain weight. It helped me out so much. It made me feel so great, not only physically but mentally. So you guys should start following a diet as well that has a purpose, not just eating to eat. And some people may disagree with that opinion, but at least this is what works for me. And when it comes to the podcast, I only speak about what works for me or what I've learned. And I tell you guys, you don't have to do it, but I'm telling you that's what works for me, and maybe you should give it a try. And you can do something. You should always be testing yourself. You should always be learning from your own experiences. You hear something, you try it, maybe it doesn't work, you stop it, you try something else. For me, that's what works, so that's what I'm going to say. Also, helping the people around you, because a lot of times we get clouded in our own lives, in our own journeys, and what we want to achieve, but then the people around us get left behind, right? So even just the small things of waking up and having some chores to do, if it's cutting the grass, cleaning the dishes, doing something like that, so that you're helping around the house, or you're helping your family, or even just checking up on your friends, because a lot of the times people could be going through something, dealing with something, and you have no idea. So even you just checking up on your friends on maybe not the daily would be too much, but maybe a couple of days a week, you call them, you ask them how are they feeling, how's life been treating them, all these different kinds of things, and you feel more purposeful in the conversations you have, because you're honestly trying to check up on these people and see how they're doing. So that's another thing you could start doing to implement a more purposeful life on the daily. Okay, let's get into how to find your purpose, because that's what we all look for. Even sometimes myself, I struggle with it. What is my purpose? In order to find your purpose, you have to start trying new things. I believe this is the first step. So, for example, go to new events, new meetups, new social gatherings with people you might not know. You might learn something from someone you never even thought about. Start jumping into everything that you find uncomfortable. Oh, I don't really like doing this task, or I don't really like hanging out in this type of setting. Do you not like it? Why do you not like it? You need to ask yourself. If it makes you feel uncomfortable, if it's so new to you, so alien to you, you need to maybe do those things, because maybe you can learn something great from it. Maybe you start talking to someone that teaches you about something that you never thought of, and now you want to do it, you want to try it. So you need to do that as well. And you need to, in this whole process, what this will do is you'll discover yourself, right? Because you'll start to see new things, try new things, and you might discover something new, right? For me, I believe the gym is a very big purpose of mine. And in grade 9, when I started, I waited outside the weight room hoping that it would be open, and eventually a teacher opened it, and I was able to work out. And that was the first time I actually worked out in the gym. Prior to that, I was always working out at home with resistant bands and dumbbells. It's not the same thing. Once I was in that environment, I fell in love with it. I went on to working out from then till now, never stopping. And I also, tried powerlifting, which I got to meet a couple new people, which was pretty cool, see how they go about living their lives. And then we've had like a powerlifter on the podcast before. So that's all because it's a butterfly effect, in my opinion. I believe in it. Is that it's all because I did that one action. Maybe if I was intimidated or scared of going to the gym, I would have not gone, and I would not be who I am today. So you need to try these new things. You need to put yourself out there. You need to be uncomfortable. Next thing is time alone. I think time alone is the most important thing for your mind, because not only are we constantly seeing people, calling people, never giving ourselves time to think by ourselves, we're also always hyperstimulating our mind, right? Anytime that you're not doing anything, tell me you don't bring out your phone. You pull out your phone and you start scrolling. You can't just sit with your mind and think. How are you meant to find your purpose when you have zero time of thinking? Absolutely zero time of thinking. And when you are thinking, are your thoughts productive? Are they productive at all? Or is it just negative? Is it just self-doubt? Is it just self-destructive thoughts? And at least from my own experience, when I constantly hyperstimulate my mind and I don't give it a break, if I'm either scrolling on social media, watching something, and then after hyperstimulating myself, I'm talking with friends, talking with family, never any time true to myself and alone. When I do have that time alone, all that's left is negative thoughts. It's the only space there is for negative thoughts. But when I don't do those things, I don't hyperstimulate my mind. I'll see my friends, but I'll put the phone away. When there's a little break, or let's say we're playing a sport, I don't scroll on my phone in between a game or something. It gives my mind so much peace and so much ease, so that when I do go home and I'm alone and I think to myself, it's usually only productive thoughts, ideas, things that I could use, that I could apply to my life. So you need to spend time alone, and you need to stop stimulating your mind constantly. Give yourself some time to just sit and think, because this is where you'll find your purpose. There's a practice that some people have talked about, that they'll go a couple days, just no phone, no social media, anything, no devices, anything, and they'll just sit and think and be with their thoughts. And a lot of people have found their purpose from doing these types of practices. So I believe that it's a very good practice that you should start doing. And you don't need to go to the extreme of going 3 days without a phone, 3 days without technology, whatever. But you go do your own thing during the day. You do whatever, if it's school, if it's work, if it's working on your business, and at night you shut off the phone, you shut off the distractions, and you just sit with yourself and think. And you'll be surprised that most of your productivity and the thoughts that are actually useful will happen during this time. So I would definitely give being time alone, because time alone will allow you to discover that purpose and discover your reason for doing what you're doing. Now, I want you to ask yourself, what do you like doing? And think of ways you can make it purposeful. Try to do this thing that you like, and try to share your passion with the people around you. This will give you joy, and maybe you can teach them about it as well. My goal, for example, is I want to grow this podcast. I want to successfully grow this podcast, impact people's lives. And then through that, I can maybe teach other people how to do a podcast, how to set up a podcast, how to teach people. That's a thing that I believe is my purpose. So if you have something you like doing, try to find a way to make it purposeful. If it's playing an instrument, you might say, oh, it's very selfish type of thing. You're playing music and stuff, but you got to realize that you practicing in your room, you learning, you're going to spread that joy with your music if you play it for others. And once you play it for others, there might be someone that says to you, comes up to you, oh, for example, it's me, Anthony, I like how you play this instrument. Can you teach me? And then there you go, you found a purpose. You wake up the next morning and you're like, oh, I can't wait to teach John about the instrument. He actually seemed very interested. And then it gives you a reason for waking up and feeling happy because someone is appreciating what you do. So I would say you need to ask yourself what you like doing and try to find a way to make it purposeful, and also try to share your passions with the people around you. Because as much as you think people don't care or people don't want to hear it, a lot of people love being around others that are passionate about something. Who wants to be around someone that complains about everything or has no passions? It doesn't even have to be something that they make money from. You just love hearing them talk about it because it makes you happy, because you can see the enjoyment with them. You can see the passion within them when they speak about it. I have lots of friends. My brother is passionate about cars. I like it when he talks about cars, because at the end of the day, I know he's passionate about it. I have friends that are passionate about certain sports, friends that are passionate about certain movies. And these are the best conversations because you can see the true joy in what they're talking about and what they like. So I would say once you discover that thing, start to share it around with others because a lot of people will appreciate it and maybe they can learn something from it too. Maybe they could be less shy with sharing their passions, you know? So before I close out here, because I feel like that is really good and one of the first steps that you could do those three things. So starting to try new things, getting comfortable. You need time alone to think about what your purpose is, and then you need to share it with others. You know, spread that passion, spread that joy. But for me, when it comes to me, what is my purpose? My purpose is self-improvement. I want to improve myself to a level where I can look in the mirror and be proud of who I am. And then once that is settled, I want to share it with everyone. So what I'm doing right now, I want to share the passion of self-improvement so that people can understand who they are is not who they have to be. They can be something more. They don't need to be stuck to who they currently are. They could be happy for who they could be and be excited and look forward to that. So that's my passion. I want other people to realize this. That is my purpose. I personally believe that you should always live true to yourself. When you do this, you will be the best version of yourself, and you'll wake up every morning with a burning passion to get things done. When you have a purpose, you will no longer be hesitant in getting out of bed. You will look forward to attacking the day that's ahead of you. Most of us have about 4,000 weeks on this earth. We must stop wasting it on things that do not bring us fulfillment. If you guys enjoyed this episode, remember to give it a rating on Spotify. You can also answer the polls on there. It will give me feedback for future podcasts so I can have them more improved. And I just want to say that like this podcast is something, like I said before, that I'm very passionate about. So my goal is to always improve episode to episode. If it's the guests, if it's the questions I ask, if it's the technology, as this podcast grows, everything's going to be reinvested back into it because I want it to be something great. Right now, I got a tripod with my phone on it. I got this mic that I bought and my laptop. That's about it in this backyard of mine. But one day I want to have a studio. I want to be flying out to go see guests, you know, all these different things, meeting new people. And my whole thing is I want everyone's story to be shared because everyone's story has value in my opinion. And everyone's story could be relatable to someone else and it could help someone that is watching this right now. So that is my goal. That is my purpose. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I thank you for getting this far if you did. And I'll see you guys on the next one for episode 9. Take care, everybody.